Morning, everybody. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about Susan's e-bike. I've mentioned this bike several times in other videos, and I've talked about how much Susan has enjoyed riding it, and I think I might have even touched base on some of the components and how it came to be that this bike got put together. Starting in the beginning, let me just say that we decided to make changed her bike for obvious reasons. We wanted to make it easier for Susan to ride with me, easier for her to climb hills, easier for her to go greater distances and have a lot more fun on the bike. And all those things we have hit right out of the park. We've been very successful with that. And to accomplish that, initially I had searched the internet looking for e-bike kits so that we can convert her bike or add something to her bike to accomplish all those goals that I just mentioned. And the company that we decided to buy the e-bike kit from is a company called Leeds. That's L-E-E-D-S. And I'm sure that they're similar to any number of companies that are out there. But essentially we decided on getting a 250 watt e-bike kit. And the kit comes with a hub motor that is attached to a rim that you decide on what size you want. Obviously, in our case, we got a 700cc road bike rim. I think it also comes in a 26-inch and some other ones. I can't be clear on that. But there are a number of options that you can get in terms of battery size. And of course, the battery size will determine just how much range you will be able to get out of riding the bike. We opted for a 12 volt 10 amp battery pack, and that battery pack is specified to give you 20 miles of riding. And based on the kind of riding that we anticipated Susan doing, in other words, she wouldn't be using the motor all the time, that she could easily get a good 40 miles of riding in, and that has been the case all the way along. So there's been no problem with the capacity she has for riding the miles that we ride. The other thing that I was really focused on was trying to come up with a kit that I could use to change her bike from a regular road bike to an e-bike without it being too obvious. From the standpoint of the motor on the hub, I'll show you more detail of that further in this video. But the hub itself, essentially from a slight distance away, looks like most any other road bike wheel that has, as an example, a disc brake on the front. So it doesn't stand out from that standpoint. You can't notice it. The other thing is that the wiring that I wanted to, that was included with the kit, the wiring from the battery to the motor and the throttle, which is a switch on the handlebar, that I wanted to be all as inconspicuous as possible. So I took time to figure out what routing I wanted to make from the location of the battery to the switch to the motor. And I think I did a pretty good job on that. But the last thing that we have been struggling with for quite a while is the battery and how to carry the battery and how to make it as inconspicuous as possible. I don't have a picture of it, or maybe I will find a picture of it for you and I'll put it up on the screen. When Leeds sends you the package, the kit, the battery is encased in a canvas bag, a heavy canvas bag that has a series of straps on it that allow you to hang it over things like your top tube, which I find to be particularly ugly. It's a very lazy solution from them, from the Leeds manufacturing, from the Leeds e-bike company. But I also find that that's a very typical thing as well. They try to make it as easy as possible for anyone to just hang these batteries anywhere. I struggled with that for a while, and we never really used it other than, I think, maybe the first week. I had a secondary rack, bike rack that I had hanging around that attached to the seat post and went out the back of the bike that I hung that battery pack on for a while. But we soon got tired of that look, and the next thing I tried to do was I searched Amazon as much as I could, and I found this item here, which is a cycling pack, not a bag. And what I liked about this is that it's very rigid. It hangs from the seat. It gave it a lot of stability. It would carry a lot of weight. But the problem was that the dimensions that are listed with this item for sale you would think would match up with the dimensions of the battery when I took it out of the bag that was provided from the manufacturer, that it would fit in something like this. Well, I was hard pressed to do it, but I did struggle to get it in, but I never was able to close up the back of the pack as you're supposed to in this fashion to compress this down to something that would look like that hanging off the bike saddle. That wouldn't have been bad. The problem is I never made it happen. This thing was always open all the way in the back, and while I was able to tie up the back of it to make it neat, look as neat as possible, we still had this large pack hanging off the back of the saddle. So actually I had started to look into actually determining how I could better fit that into a smaller package. And I started looking at how you can build your own e-bike battery yourself. And little by little I saw more and more YouTube channels on this, and one in particular, and I found almost the exact remedy that I wanted. In other words, this guy took a saddlebag that is used on a typical road bike, and he reconfigured his battery cells to such a shape that they would easily fit into that package. And to be honest with you, that was my next attempt. I was going to take and build a custom battery for Susan so that it would fit into a bag, a saddlebag. Well, I thought about it, and I decided, well, rather than do that, why don't I take the battery pack that was in here, that I squeezed in here, take it out and see what I got to work with, and possibly maybe change things around. And as it turns out, that's exactly what I did, and it worked out very well. The battery itself is a series, for those of you who don't know, the battery itself is a series of battery cells. They're about 3¼ inches in diameter by about 3 inches long. And for this particular battery, there are 24 of them. So what they do, how a battery is built, they take these battery cells, they collect them together, they wire them together in series and parallel to give you amp hours and voltage. And then what they do is they attach a separate device, which is called a battery management system, to that battery pack. And that controls how much voltage is being sent out and back to the battery in terms of discharge and recharging the battery. Leeds also has a separate little switch to allow you to turn the battery on and off, separate from turning the motor on and off. So when they collectively put all that stuff together, the battery management system, and the switch, it became a fairly long, elongated item that I couldn't fit in here. But essentially what I was able to do was undo it, take it apart, leave the battery cells collectively together, take the battery management system and move it to another position, and take the battery switch that was located on a metal plate on the battery and disconnect that, but leave the switch in place, and I was able to then put it into a regular road bike saddlebag. So, long story short, Susan is extremely happy now, because now her bike looks a lot more clean, looks a lot more like a road bike. So that's the subject this morning. I wanted to talk a little bit more about how we struggle to make Susan's road bike look and perform like a road bike should, even though it is configured up to an e-bike. And I will say one other thing. We looked at other things like the Copenhagen wheel, and I thought that that was a butt ugly solution. I'm sorry, but if you're going to ride a road bike, at least have the decency to keep it looking like a road bike. My own personal opinion. Please don't kill me for that. Copenhagen wheel is a very, very interesting technology, and for those of you who have gone that way, I don't mean to disparage you with that. I'm really screwing up on this part right now. I should stop talking. Okay, so thanks for tuning in this morning. I hope you like this video. Hope you click and subscribe, and we'll see you again in the next video. Thanks again for watching.